Please be seated. Members of the class of Tucker Hall, named for John Tucker, who served as Attorney General of Virginia and a United States Congressman before becoming Dean of the Law School in 1893, was home to the law school from 1900 to 1976, and it contains a two-story library in which one Supreme Court justice, several American Bar Association presidents, and many other distinguished alumni received their legal education. The law school crossed the ravine, as you did this morning, to Lewis Hall in 1977, at the forefront of the university's 20th century expansion. And as the undergraduates followed your lead across Woods Creek, the law school again became geographically central, reflecting its historic and contemporary significance to Washington and Lee. Today's commencement is the first ever on Wilson Field, with Lewis Hall providing a fitting backdrop to the conclusion of your legal education. The tradition of excellence at Washington Lee Law School stretches back more than 150 years, but it also aspires ever forward in keeping with our motto, non incautus futuri, not unmindful of the future. You are all a part of this tradition. Take W&L, the place, the people, the lessons you have learned with you into the world, and you and the world will be better for it. I congratulate you, and I now call upon Dean Brant Hellwig to continue the ceremony.
Thank you very much, President Dudley. What a fantastic day to be gathered once again on what may not be the most pristine of Lexington mornings, but still a pretty good one. It's one of the first times these academic gowns actually feel nice to wear, right? To celebrate a significant milestone in the lives of our students, soon to be our graduates. It is a joy and a privilege to be part of this occasion. Okay, who would have thought that the last event of your law school career would take place on a football field, right? an actual football field, not the law school lawn where you enjoyed at least 2 seasons of LSFL. But I absolutely love it. Thank you, President Dudley and the rest of the university administration for being committed to hosting an in-person commencement at every stage of the process. And thank you to everyone who engaged in the planning of today's event to navigate the prevailing and continuing restrictions to make our commencement a reality. One other point, how about those bagpipes? What a tremendous way to start our ceremony with an inescapable air of dignity. Thank you, Major Burt Mitchell, who joined us from VMI, for bringing our graduates into the ceremony in style. I am thrilled beyond measure that we could gather the entire law school class of 2021 together once again, finally, and for the reason of celebrating such a significant milestone, not only in professional terms, but in personal terms as well. The completion of your legal studies and the conferral of your Juris Doctor degree. Few things in life are better than being able to pause and celebrate accomplishments that have been earned through tremendous sacrifice and hard work. Graduating from law school certainly is one of those. One of my favorite aspects of commencement is the palpable sense of pride that permeates the entire ceremony. Justifiable pride that you have in your own accomplishments, pride that you have in the accomplishments of your classmates, and pride that friends and family, many of whom we are fortunate to have with us here today and many more who are watching the live stream of this event, pride that they have in you. I know you feel it. Simply put, I think this is the good stuff, and I wish we could actually bottle it up and draw upon it from time to time when we all need that additional dose of positive energy. Before we turn our sights to all that you've accomplished during your time at W&L Law, let's pause and reflect on all who have helped you get to this point in your life. The Juris Doctor degree you will receive in a few moments definitely has been well earned. But I imagine this significant accomplishment is not the product of your individual effort alone. Rather, any significant success that we may be fortunate to realize often is the result of considerable sacrifice, support, and love from others. Rest assured that your accomplishments are broadly shared and celebrated by those who have been and will continue to be a part of your life journey. So if you've not done so already, let these people know just how much you appreciate all they have done to help you get where you are today. Maybe that takes the form of an unmitigated bear hug where you rock from side to side because a simple hug just simply is not enough. Maybe it's one of those handshakes that awkwardly turns into a hug, and when you're there, you really don't know what to do once you're in it, right? And so you have a few pats on the back, just a kind of a request of release, right? We've all been there. Maybe it's a traditional handshake, a fist bump, the blowing of a kiss, or even just a smile and a look of true appreciation. We all have different styles, whatever works. But let's share the joy of this moment with others, letting people know just how much we appreciate them and all that they have done for us. All right, now let's focus on you. Almost 3 years ago, each one of you was seated in the moot courtroom for the opening session of your orientation to law school. Do you all remember that? I can recall everyone with their welcome packets, looking pretty sharp, eager, excited, a bit nervous, making new introductions and getting ready to start this whole law school endeavor. To be honest, I shared some of that same nervous energy myself. And thinking back to that moment, it reminds me of that feeling you get when you step into a roller coaster car, the protective bars come down, right? And you think to yourself, okay, here we go. I guess this is happening. Well, if you think back to yourself when you took your seat in the moot courtroom on that first day of orientation, that will give you some sense of just how far you have come and how much you've accomplished over the past 3 years of work and study. While not a different language entirely, at times it felt like one as you encountered and mastered a new vocabulary. Through your voluminous reading assignments, the questions you fielded in class, your legal writing memoranda, and your oral arguments, you were introduced to and expected to apply a rigorous, exacting, analytical thought process. You acquired a tremendous body of doctrinal knowledge, you sharpened your critical reasoning skills, you adapted to what likely was a new form of writing altogether, and you honed your presentation abilities. While you developed a range of skills required of attorneys in practice, you also acquired a sense of what it means to be a professional who serves others. Many of you, through your clinical offerings and externship placements, have already assumed the role of counselor and advocate. You are able to experience what it feels like to have the resolution of your client's matter depend, at least in part, on how you performed. Through interactions with professors, summer employers, mentors, your colleagues in student organizations, you developed your own sense of professional identity. That is how you view yourself and how others view you, based not only on your words, but importantly on your actions. In the process of all of this, many of you discovered skills and strengths you may not have known you had, and many of you discovered fields of law that have sparked professional ambitions. As this occurred, we on the faculty and staff were fortunate to witness so many of you grow and truly shine. I can't tell you how many times I and others on the faculty and staff have marveled at your skill, your intellect, and your presence. We've seen that on display in a range of advocacy competitions, student note colloquia, presentations in classes and clinics, and the times you served as moderators of our extracurricular panel discussions. We also have admired your leadership and courage, which we've seen through the Student Bar Association, through our journals, through the Moot Court Board, through a wide range of student organizations, including some that you all revitalized, and through student-led petitions. Simply put, we were often amazed by you. Congratulations on successfully navigating the past 3 years, on all that you have accomplished in the myriad ways you have grown personally and professionally. In addition to congratulating you on your achievement, there's another message I'd like to convey from all of us on the faculty, administration, and staff. Thank you. Thank you for the privilege of being a part of your development and growth over the past 3 years. Thank you for being a part of our continuing education and growth as well. We've learned so much from our conversations and interactions with you, both in class and beyond. Thank you for your good humor, your decency, and the degree of care and support you provided to others during your time here. That has been especially needed over the past year plus, as members of your class have had to address the significant challenges attributable to the public health crisis that we continue to navigate. We all recognize that those challenges have by no means been borne equally across society. Many of you have experienced deaths in your family, severe illness, financial hardship, and the added mental health strain attributable to the isolation caused by the COVID crisis. It's hard to overstate those losses and challenges. Indeed, we are all incredibly fortunate and privileged to be celebrating this event here today. I know of many instances of students providing critical care and support for one another, and I'm sure I am aware of only a small fraction of what actually took place. Thank you for being those people, for having those motivations. The times you placed others above yourself as you navigated law school may not show up on a transcript, but they are far more important than any grade or accolade. They are part of your character, and that is the stuff of substance. I'm convinced that the character of our student body is our strongest asset as a school. It drives the feeling in the building, and it's what makes me and others feel so good when we walk into Lewis Hall. I still recall the first conversations I had with many of you, some of which occurred at an admitted students weekend, some occurring in local restaurants or coffee shops in late July, early August, as you were moving into town. Many occurring during the blitz of events we typically have during orientation week, when we try our best to provide you with a semester's worth of barbecue, macaroni and cheese, and if things are going well, some cornbread also. By the way, I really miss those university catered events. I'm not sure how I made it a full year without the university's Latin flair. meal, right? In some ways, those moments seem like yesterday. In others, largely because of the disruption of the past year, they seem like another world altogether. From our standpoint, the only downside of commencement is that just as we feel like we were truly getting to know you and vice versa, you're moving on to the next exciting chapter of your lives. Well, I'll have a few more words to say to you in a moment after we hand out the degrees. Allow me, on behalf of the entire Washington and Lee Law School faculty and staff, to congratulate you, to thank you, and to wish you the best as you start your legal career. We hope that your education and overall experience here will serve you well in the profession and beyond. And we also hope that you will continue to be an integral part of the W&L law community down the road. Thank you very much. Now let's get to the highlight of the ceremony, the conferring of degrees. I will ask the members of the law class of 2021 to rise. President Dudley, I have the honor to present 119 candidates for the Juris Doctor degree. They have been examined by the faculty and approved by the Board of Trustees. They are to be congratulated on their command of the ways by which justice is attained and commended for their exceptional learning to the advancement of a just social order. I ask you by your official act to confer upon them their degrees.
Upon the recommendation of the faculty and approval by the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer the degree of Juris Doctor of Washington and Lee University. Please come forward to receive the diploma as your names are called. I ask that the audience hold its applause until the last graduate has received the diploma.
Oluwatati Tomi Akinmola. Jack James Andrade. Alexander Llewellyn Bailey. Mary Elizabeth Barbary. Daniel Scott Barrow. Zachary Scott Bartnick. Charles Louis Bonani. Benedetto Borgesano III. George Robert Bouchard. Lee Samuel Brett. Chad Michael Brown. Warren Michael Buff. Ishayla Chandelia Unique Bunch. Cameron West Calder. Christoph S. Chino. Anna Marie Chiwanga. Alexandra Preston Clark. Megan Claire Comunali. Mackenzie Danielle Cooper. Brandon James Cornejo. David John Cross. Emily Culler D'Alessio. Christopher Top Dean. Lucy Geneva Dempsey. Autumn Nicole Dickerson. Rachel Jeanette Dixon. In absentia, Christopher M. DeRizio. Michael Schroeder Dorr. Elizabeth Latimer Drake. Khadijah Array Dukes. Macy Ryan East. Colin Erickson Emmerich. Kyle George Erickson. Mary Catherine Field. In absentia, Robert Martin Fitzgerald. Randy Forrest Folker. Andrew James Fox. William Stephen Fusi. Eduardo Enrique Garza III. Virginia Elizabeth Gordon. Carlo Garania. Chandler Hope Gray. In absentia, Claire Elizabeth Gross. Also in absentia, E. Gua. Charles Hallinan. Lauren Nicole Hancock. Matthew Campbell Hansen. Aaron Russell Hardy. Corey J. Hauser. Erin Renee Hayes. Kevin William Hivick Jr. In absentia, Chandler K. Holcomb. Christina Marie Hoff. Matthew Gregory Jeffers. Alora Jiang. Benjamin Banker Johnson. Numrutha Kung. Daniel Justin Cater.
Thanks, buddy.
Julia Mary Kerr. Joshua Christopher Thomas Karuski. Stephanie Marie Cly. Seth Gordon Kuntz. We're going to pause for a minute as we reverse the field. That's right. All right, we'll start up again. Harper Lanier. John Vance Little Jr. Jacob Richard Lubenow. William Hall Mallory. Nicholas Ryan Martinez. Daniel Thomas McCabe. Caitlin Marie McLean. Mitchell E. McCloy. Michael P. McCormick. Allie Marie McKnight. Adenike Olawatosin Renee Miles Soren Made. Scott Morris Miller, Jr. Rebecca Taylor Mitchell. Anahita Motasham Garagozlu. Alexander Robert Moldauer. Alyssa Antonia Montemayor. Andrew M. O'Duden. Danielle Melissa Potter. Molly Payne Pugh. Hector Casada. Angela Jane Rager Cannon. Rami Abdullah Elias Rashmawi. Maya Shrishana Reddy. Christian Francis Reese. Evan Orion Reed. Rebecca Jane Richardson. Nathan Gardner Roach. Edwin Brian Robert, Jr. Arthur Earl Wallace Robinson. Sophie Wren Rogers Churchill. Braden Charles Rose. John M. Rott. Michael Hunter Rush. Haley Christina Dos Santos. In absentia, Patrick Stone Savage. Morgan Lee Sexton.
Thank you so much.
Maria Shahadat. Llewellyn Kittredge Shamamian. Kimberly Shee. Rachel Samantha Stern. Evan Daniel Sweeney. Joanna Eleni Thomas. Catherine Ann Thompson. Tuan Tran. Cynthia Lee Trin. Rutha Rahul Trivedi. Sydney Caitlin Tucker. Rebecca Ellie Vanis. Sheena X. Wong. Christine C.C. Ward. Elizabeth K. Williams. Brooke Elizabeth Wilson. Patrick L. Wright. Matthew Trent Wyatt. Yuquan Yan. Kevin Ye. Emily Claire Zagorski. Please join me in congratulating the WL Law class of 2021.
Congratulations, class of 2021. Please be seated. I can see it's getting a little damp out there, but we did not come all this way to let a little drizzle stop us. So we're going to soldier on unless it gets really wet out there. You can raise your hands if you want to pause. Traditionally, at this point in the ceremony, the dean of the law school introduces the distinguished commencement speaker. But it would be bad form to ask the distinguished commencement speaker to introduce himself. So I'm delighted to have the honor of introducing our very own Brant Hellwig. In February 2015, a little more than 6 years ago, when Brant Hellwig was named dean, legal education across the country was struggling to respond to dramatically changed professional environment brought about by the Great Recession. National law school enrollments were at their lowest level in 40 years. Job placement rates had plummeted. Student indebtedness had increased. And W&L was not immune. Applications here had fallen dramatically. Entering classes were smaller. Consequently, revenue had dropped significantly, and there was a real budget crisis. The university crafted a plan to enable the law school to preserve its high educational standards while remaining financially viable. It was a tall order, and this was the environment in which Brant Hellwig was appointed the dean. The phrase baptism by fire comes to mind. But the new dean never flinched. He embraced the challenge of guiding the law school through those turbulent times, and with the help of faculty, staff, students, and alumni, the law school has exceeded all of its goals. Over the next 6 years, under Dean Hellwig's leadership, the law school achieved record highs in employment outcomes for our graduates, beat annual fundraising targets, and improved its competitive position in the national market. Dean Hellwig was also instrumental to recruiting a distinguished and diverse group of faculty members and to creating a dedicated legal writing program for our students. When I arrived in 2017, it was tremendously reassuring to find the law school in Dean Hellwig's capable hands. It was also exciting to discover that Dean Hellwig and I both view W&L Law not only as an outstanding professional school in its own right, but also as an integral contributor to the university as a whole. With Dean Hellwig's enthusiastic support, we developed a Law, Justice, and Society minor for our undergraduate students, which is jointly taught by law faculty together with undergraduate faculty from the Williams School and the college. Brant also helped me adjust to life in Lexington. If you want to know where to find the best barbecue, he's your man. He's equally good on side dishes and on beer. But even more enjoyable than the food is Brant's company. He's warm, funny, easygoing, and fundamentally decent to his core. I appreciate his friendship as much as I admire his leadership at W&L. Dean Hellwig's leadership is inseparable from his personal qualities. He builds community by relishing time spent with students, faculty, and staff. The pandemic has made this more difficult, but Brant has persevered. He's converted his weekly coffee and donuts meetings to Zoom sessions, but even in that format, there is no doubt about Dean Hellwig's commitment to and affection for his students. And clearly the feeling is mutual. The Student Bar Association named Dean Hellwig the Teacher of the Year just last year in 2020, which is saying a lot when your specialty is federal taxation. Dean Hellwig joined the W&L faculty in 2012. He's taught a variety of courses and has written extensively on issues of estate and gift taxation, as well as income tax treatment of deferred compensation arrangements. He received his BS degree summa cum laude. I didn't know that before. That's impressive, Brant. Summa cum laude and JD magna cum laude, both from Wake Forest University. After practicing with the firm of Bell, Davis, and Pitt in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, he earned the Master of Laws in Taxation at New York University School of Law, where he also received the Harry J. Ruddick Memorial Award for Distinction in the tax program. After serving as a law clerk to the Honorable Juan F. Vasquez of the U.S. Tax Court, he spent a year as an acting professor at NYU before joining the South Carolina School of Law, where he taught from 2012 until joining W&L. At South Carolina, he won a number of institutional awards, including the G.G. Dowling Faculty Award, recognizing the faculty member, quote, who typifies outstanding qualities of integrity, concern for others, and legal scholarship. We owe Dean Hellwig a tremendous debt of gratitude for his leadership, under which the law school has flourished in every way. Please join me in welcoming Brant Hellwig.
Thank you very much, President Dudley, for those extremely kind words, and thank you for giving me the honor and privilege of serving as the commencement speaker to deliver the address to the law school class of 2021, something that President Dudley asked me to do really well before we even knew if there was going to be a commencement. So I'm really grateful to you for this honor. I was joking with President Dudley, given that I'm speaking so much today that maybe I should have tried to pull a wardrobe change in between the opening remarks and this commencement address. Maybe a cooler academic gown or something, but anyway, I'm really pleased and privileged to have this opportunity, and I want to thank you for gutting it out in what's not the best weather, and I'll do my best to move this along. All right, I'm going to try to frame my thoughts around a playlist that I've created for this purpose, and as something of a disclaimer, these are all songs that I actually like. As fair warning, most are old, which means they likely don't rise to the top of the list for many of you who are a full generation behind me. We'll see. But the song titles and lyrics touch on themes that I think are fitting for the current times. All right, the first song I have on the list, just to get things warmed up, is the one that I shared with you during my toast at the 50 Days to Graduation event, the 1978 classic Roll with the Changes by REO Speedwagon. I know when I tossed that song out during that event, I received far more blank stares and confused looks on the Zoom screen than I've had in any of my tax courses this past year. Right, but if you listen closely enough, you may just be able to hear one of your parents, family members, or friends saying, "Oh my God, that is an incredible song." And they would be correct. By the way, one of the comments to the YouTube video of the song notes, "One of my neighbors threw a rock through my window so he could hear it better." That song came to mind in light of everything you as a class have had to roll with and navigate over the past year and more. The seismic shock to our educational model demanded extreme flexibility, patience, and perseverance on your part. But you adapted along with us. People will often talk about the need for younger generations to develop grit and resilience. By the way, I think that call has been going on for generations. But you all have developed those important character traits. You really didn't have a choice. You persevered, you adapted, and you persisted. That alone is no small feat, and it's something you should take pride in. And if you ever do hear this song on a classic rock radio station, I hope you crank up the volume, and I also hope that it gives you a little bit of a reason to smile. All right, the next song on my commencement playlist is another old one, but one I imagine you are all familiar with nonetheless. The 1972 classic Lean on Me by Bill Withers. It's such a great song that it's been covered numerous times over the years, so maybe we don't have to reach too far back after all. The reason I picked this song is that it captures one of the best aspects of the role of a legal counselor and advocate. In one sense, a law degree and ultimately a law license puts you in a position to advise clients and, when necessary, to advocate on their behalf. But that's a formalistic, bland way to look at the profession. When you examine the role of a counselor and advocate with an eye towards the humanity of the position, a law license offers the potential to bring to others a sense of calm, comfort, and even hope. To be the person your clients lean on. The ability to serve that role is an incredible privilege and a tremendous responsibility. If you think about it, most events that cause people to seek legal assistance are not the best moments in life, often far from it. Lawyers often work with individuals who are facing incredibly stressful circumstances that may include the deprivation of life and liberty, and yes, even life itself. But beyond these extremes, apparently innocuous or even positive events, such as the purchase of a home, the start of a business, even estate planning, these are significant transactions in the lives of your clients and often can be anxiety-producing moments. So what are you able to do for your clients in these situations? You may not be able to make their legal issues disappear, but you are able to help them navigate what may be rough waters. There's a tremendous sense of calm and comfort that comes from being seen, from being heard, from being understood, and from having a sense that someone cares, truly cares about your situation. As an attorney, you will be in a position to provide that degree of calm and comfort for your clients. The inclination to do so is the hallmark of an outstanding attorney. One story I have from my last few years as dean that helps me convey this point is the testimonial that was provided at the funeral of one of our alumni, Archibald Carter McGee, who went by the name of Chip. Chip, a graduate of the law class of 1979, died just over 2 years ago at far too early an age. Chip was an exceptionally positive, gracious, and kind individual who was beloved by many in his community. He was the founding partner of a small law firm in Roanoke that specialized in business bankruptcy, and he actually taught one of the first practicum courses in the law school, and we expanded our experiential program. There was one aspect of the funeral service that I thought captured the most admirable attributes of what it is to be an attorney, and while I was listening to it, I thought to myself, I wish our students could be here with me hearing this. So let me do my best to relay it. Chip's law partner spoke about the effect that Chip had on his clients. He noted how many of Chip's clients were owners of closely held businesses that were facing extreme financial challenges. When these individuals came to see Chip for their initial consultation, they were essentially broken, not just financially, but emotionally as well. In many cases, what they had devoted their lives to building was falling apart. They were receiving constant calls related to their debts, and even people they had thought were friends were keeping them at a distance. That description alone was gut-wrenching to hear. But here's the uplifting part. As part of their consultation with Chip, he was able to advise them on a plan for addressing the storm they found themselves in and for moving forward. That's it, a plan to move ahead. He would hear them, acknowledge their pain and anxiety, and articulate a path forward. The law partner described how on countless occasions those same clients were able to leave Chip's office with a significant weight lifted from their shoulders, with a bit of their dignity restored. They could hold their heads higher. Stop and think about that for a minute. What an incredible gift to be able to affect someone's life in that manner. And that's just one example of one very narrow field of law in which this is possible. It applies across the board. Civil litigation, criminal litigation, immigration, business planning, you name it. You've been trained and are prepared to enter a profession that will enable you to improve people's lives. And what's the key to that? I think the key is seeing your client, really seeing them, hearing them, having their struggles mean something to you. I recently heard a quote from Maya Angelou that captures what I believe to be the essence of an admirable attorney. Her words were as follows: I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That's a great message for life in general, but it also translates perfectly into the legal profession. Your long-term success as an attorney turns largely on how you make your clients feel. It's not about you, it's about them. The best attorneys across specialties know this. And here's the liberating thing about it. Your ability to instill that feeling in your clients has nothing to do with how well you perform on any exam in law school. The next song on the list is based on a recommendation from a friend. It's another gem from the 1970s entitled "Keep On Keeping On" by Curtis Mayfield. I chose this one because of its lyrics, and let me highlight the first verse. We who are young should now take a stand. Don't run from the burdens of women and men. Continue to give, continue to live for what you know is right. Most of your life can be out of sight. Withdraw from the darkness and look to the light, where everyone's free. At least that's the way it's supposed to be. And we just keep on keeping on. We just keep on keeping on. I find the message in those lyrics inspiring. They not only serve as a call to stand up for what you believe is right, but essentially to internalize that approach as a regular, uneventful practice, almost as if it were a matter of habit. Just keep on keeping on. And I'd like to use this song to highlight the remarkable career and work of one of our alumni, Edmund Douglas Campbell. Ed Campbell was the product of Lexington and Washington and Lee University. He grew up on the front campus as his father served as dean of the college. After graduating at the top of his undergraduate class, he replicated that achievement when he graduated from W&L Law in 1922, almost 100 years ago. So why am I bringing him up as an example today? I'm doing so because of the remarkable professional courage he displayed at a critical point in our country's development. A lifelong member of the Democratic Party in Virginia, Ed was nonetheless dismayed when the Virginia legislature, dominated by his own party, passed a series of laws that have come to be known as the massive resistance to the United States Supreme Court decision in Brown v. Board of Education, a decision which finally jettisoned the separate but equal doctrine and required the integration of public schools. The response of many localities in Virginia to this constitutional mandate was simply to withdraw from the provision of public education altogether. Rather than comply with an integration order, formerly white-only schools were shuttered. Some students were educated in private homes and churches. Some were left with no education at all. The approach of adamant defiance enjoyed wide popularity at the time, having been championed by political leaders such as the governor and state attorney general, while also being defended by some of the most respected members of the legal profession. Massive resistance served as a defense of the existing status quo, which people did not want to abandon. But our alumnus, Ed Campbell, understood that the campaign of massive resistance not only was contrary to Supreme Court rulings, it was morally deficient. As with all civil rights cases, the most significant source of bravery and courage is the individual plaintiffs who are willing to pursue highly public litigation to vindicate their legal rights and to pursue social change in the process. It's important to recognize that. Yet the willingness to provide legal representation to those plaintiffs is significant as well. When Ed Campbell was approached by family members of school children in the Norfolk area about the prospect of taking the case challenging the constitutionality of Virginia's massive resistance laws, he discussed the idea with his wife, Elizabeth. They understood that they likely would be ostracized by their friends and neighbors, and Ed knew that his law practice could suffer as a result. Yet with his wife's strong support, he took the case because he felt it was his moral duty. In describing his decision to take on the representation, Ed recalled, "To be true to myself, I had to take the case in favor of desegregation in the state of Virginia when other lawyers refused. I could not live with myself if I did not stand up publicly for what I knew was right." And while the courage of taking that case in the context of society as it existed in the late 1950s does not depend on the result of the litigation, the clients that Ed represented in fact prevailed. In the 1959 case of James v. Allman, a panel of federal district court judges in the Eastern District of Virginia determined that the massive resistance response to the integration of public schools denied students their constitutional right to equal protection of the laws. Massive resistance, at least as a legal matter, met a quick and decisive end. Ed Campbell engaged in a range of civil rights cases, but he also took on a number of cases that were outside of the limelight. In one of the tributes published in our law review at the time of his death in 1995, a fellow member of the DC Bar noted that of all of Ed's many pro bono clients, the one he remembered most vividly came from the humblest of circumstances. The individual recalled that the DC Municipal Court, on a typical Monday morning, this was in the 1960s, was routinely packed with derelict alcoholics who had been arrested over the weekend under a law enforcement regime that treated alcoholism as a crime rather than as a disease. Leaders of the DC Bar believe that these individuals deserve legal counsel and that lawyers should volunteer to accept court appointments in their defense. When the first case in the newly established pro bono program was called on the next Monday morning, the first lawyer appointed by the court to represent an indigent client was Ed Campbell. I think it's always helpful and nice to have inspiration. And I find the career of Ed Campbell inspirational. But inspiration is actually all around us. It's not hard to find. Both now and in the years ahead, you undoubtedly will have an opportunity to stand up for what you believe is right, and you'll have the benefit of a law degree to enhance your ability to obtain those benefits for your clients and for society more broadly. I hope you claim those opportunities, and that when you do, you just keep on keeping on. All right, that brings me to my last song. It's entitled Hope the High Road by Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit. This one is actually from the past decade. And if anyone is interested in catching this band in concert when those actually start up again, please let me know. I want in. The song is essentially a call for all of us to act according to our better natures. The song has an uplifting refrain, but wherever you are, I hope the high road leads you home again to a world you want to live in. I chose this song because of its hopeful approach to our path ahead as a society. We find ourselves in a pivotal moment, an inflection point, and what will ultimately prove the most significant when people look back at this period, say 10, 20, 50 years down the road, is not what has transpired over the past year and a half, even though those events have been nothing short of monumental. Instead, the focus will be on how we respond now and in the immediate years ahead. How will we as a society respond to the inescapable exposure of racial inequities and injustice? How will we respond to the extreme political divisiveness that threaten the peaceful transfer of power in the presidency? How are we going to come out of this? What path forward will we chart? All of us have a part to play in answering those questions, in heeding those calls. But you, the members of your generation, you will drive that response. In addition to the substantive ideas and proposals that have been and will be raised, a critical issue is the posture that we take with one another in these discussions and in these debates. How and even if we engage with one another is equally as important as the substance of what is being proposed, perhaps more so. If I could pick a guiding principle for navigating the discussions and debates on the horizon, it would be empathy. That we not simply advocate strongly for what we believe is right, but as part of a larger dialogue that we attempt to put ourselves in the position of others to better understand their perspective, to better understand where they are coming from. That doesn't mean sacrificing our own beliefs. Far from it. But it entails engaging others with a recognition and respect for their humanity. In my view, empathy is the foundation of the concept of civility, an ideal our university rightly promotes. Empathy is the on-ramp to the high road. Empathy will move us away from the sheer exhaustion of a perpetual tug of war and a zero-sum game that produces fleeting victories at best. I cannot say that greater amounts of empathy will bring everyone together on the same page, but it will bring us closer, even in the face of difference. And I think that would be a significant victory. In keeping with this theme, Dory Hamilton, who will retire next week from a 25-year career providing technical support to students and faculty in the law school, and whom your class designated as the law school member of the administration of the year just yesterday. She recently shared with all of us a sign that she has posted outside of her office at the help desk in the library. It reads as follows: if we listen to each other, respect each other, love each other, we will create community. What a beautiful message. Not only for those of you who are graduating, but for all of us at this time in particular. Thank you very much, Dory. That is our challenge, to look to the light and to be willing to stand for what we believe is right and just, but importantly, to do so in a manner that promotes the dignity and humanity of others and accents the best in one another. Those are both tall orders, and I mention them as much as a charge to myself, as to you, the members of the W&L Law Class of 2021. But I believe that is the high road, a road that will lead us home again to a world that we want to live in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean Hellwig. I would now like to call forward Will Mallory, President of the third year class, and Aaron Hardy, Vice President of the third year class.
Thank you, Dean Hellwig, and thank you, everybody, for being here today. It's often said for any community that leadership starts at the top. Over the past 3 years, we have all witnessed tremendous growth of a group of students into leaders, zealous young advocates, and difference makers in this community. Without doubt, the story of the W&L Law Class of 2021 could not have happened how it did without the leadership of Dean Hellwig. There are probably countless ways to describe his tenure as dean, but what sits at the forefront of my mind is his resilient, positive attitude and deep affection for this community. It's an attitude and affection that is contagious and motivates each of us to be the best version of ourselves, for ourselves, and more importantly, for one another. From sharing a cup of coffee before or during an 8:30 a.m. TATS class on a Monday morning, to sharing a brat grilled by the dean himself after a hard-fought game of LSFL flag football on a Friday evening. Dean Hellwig has always been by our side and has driven each of us to be there for one another. This 3-year stretch has presented its share of adversity, but through the thick and thin, Dean Hellwig has always kept a positive attitude and has taught us all, and I actually prepared this, in the words of the great 1970s rock and roll band, REO Speedwagon, to roll with the changes. For that, on behalf of the class of 2021, we are forever grateful. So thank you, Dean Hellwig. We will miss you, and congratulations to the class of 2021. I'm excited to see what you all will accomplish, and I'm humbled to call you my colleagues and friends. I will now call forward Aaron Hardy, your class vice president, to present Dean Hellwig with a gift from the class of 2021.
Though no record or known living memory remains concerning the origin of the practice, by the 1920s, senior lawyers, known as 3Ls, carried canes throughout their final year as a mark of the respect and admiration they enjoyed on campus. The custom of carrying the cane on campus was most popular during the 1920s and 1930s. It is stated that the canes were the privileged possession of senior law students, who were frequently a select minority. At this time, many students left law school after their second year, when only 2 years of law school were required for taking the bar. The cane tradition was a way of distinguishing these third-year law students as the most loyal, most scholarly, and most cavalier. While most law schools have forgotten this tradition, W&L revived the tradition beginning with the class of 1981, and each class since, with the exception of one, has participated in the ceremonial walking stick conferral at graduation. Traditionally, the walking stick is also given to the commencement speaker, this year being no exception. It is most fitting that Dean Hellwig be given his walking stick this year at the conclusion of his deanship, We are most thankful for Dean Hellwig's time leading W&L and admire his scholarship and loyalty to the university and the legal profession at large. Dean Hellwig has supported each student in their academic success, and we're confident he will continue to do so, albeit in a different capacity. Though we are unable to show our immense gratitude for his work here, inviting him to participate in this tradition with us is just a small token of our appreciation. We want to say thank you to Dean Hellwig. Our lives are so much better because of you.
Thank you very much, Will and Aaron. And just let me say thank you to the entire law school class of 2021, really for the privilege of being your dean, for getting to know you and interact with you over these past 3 years. The privilege is all mine. Thank you. By the way, I'm about to turn 50, and so these walking sticks start to have a little bit of a different meaning. All right, we are about to conclude our ceremony, but before we do that, there are a few people from Washington and Lee Law School who retired during the pandemic last year or who will be retiring this year. And I'd like to recognize them and ask that everybody join me in a round of applause after all of them are named. Professor David Bruck, who joined the law school faculty in 2001. Dory Hamilton, who anchored our technical support services and joined Washington and Lee Law in 1996. John Jacob, who served as our law library archivist, who joined W&L Law in 1990. Professor Mary Natkin, who joined the law school faculty in 1990 as well. Professor Doug Rendelman, who joined the law school faculty in 1988. Judy Stinson, one of our professional librarians, who joined W&L Law in 1979. Professor Samuel Calhoun, who joined the law school faculty in 1978, and Linda Johnson, the cornerstone in law of records, who joined W&L Law in 1978. Please join me in a round of applause for these individuals. I will now turn the podium back over to President Dudley to conclude our ceremony. Thank you all very much.
I'd like to bring these exercises to a fitting conclusion by expressing our gratitude to all who've made this day possible. On behalf of the graduates, we thank the faculty who prepared you to begin your careers. We thank the alumni whose generosity has supported your education. We thank the university staff whose faithful performance of their duties has made your lives more comfortable in numerous ways. And we thank your families who've made it possible for you to be here. In closing, I encourage our graduates to reflect upon what it means to enter the noble profession that is the practice of law. Each of you has the opportunity to do good and important work. Make W&L proud. Come back to Lexington often, where you will always be warmly welcome, and we will be eager to hear how your lives and careers unfold. I wish each of you the very, very best. This concludes the commencement ceremony. We are adjourned.